We're going to take your brother instead. Has earned this more than you, my dad said over the phone as if he didn't mean it. As we talked about the weather, I felt I couldn't help but raise my voice. Do not move. You are always moving. Around for work anyway. No one needs this break. I grabbed the phone even tighter and stared at the wall of my room in Charlotte, where I had pinned the full plan I'd made. Worked for months on first-class deals, on flights to five-star hotels in London, in tours from Paris to Rome, for one person only. I planned to pay for it with my own money. With great care to thank the two people who helped me with my job as a picture. That's okay, Dad, the artist said. Myself say, even shocking me with how I seemed calm. I hope you both have a great day. Hello, my name is Vanessa Cortez, and I'm 33 years old. For the past 8 years, I've built a successful job as an architect. Materials used to sell Embergate Travel, one of the best tour companies in the Southeast. For work, I go to the country to meet with clients and work that my family has always gone to seen as a fancy jet set instead than the tough job. What a commitment it really is. I didn't miss the irony that my knowing a lot about high-end travel had helped me plan what was meant to be the best family 3 weeks of vacation in Europe visiting. I had used London, Paris, and Rome all the time. The link I needed to make reservations at the most prestigious places, which was planned private trips with guides and even booked us into places with Michelin stars that usually had wait lists of 6 months. This trip was supposed to be my present. To my Harold and Patricia Cortez, who are his parents, had worked 2 jobs at the shoe factory. I worked in a workplace for 20 years to get through planned school, while my brother Noah dropping out of school after 1 term and lived in their basement since because they had always believed in my dreams. At least that's what I thought. Until 3 days ago, when I hung up, I felt something cold settle in my chest pain. Not really anger, but to be clear, they wanted to take Noah instead. The same Noah who couldn't keep a steady job in 5 years, the same Noah borrowed money from them all the time, and Noah never paid it back. He was the same Noah who had made fun of my job choice by calling it picture-taking for rich people. People agreed that they could take their dear son on the trip I had planned, and what they didn't know they paid for was that every single ticket, every check-in at a hotel for every tour asked for something they didn't have: my identification. My name was on everything, and in the world of high-end travel, that meant I took everything I could carry to my laptop, and I opened my folder for planning my trip a little. The first time I felt a smile on my face. During my childhood, there was favoritism in our family wasn't subtle. While during my teens, I worked part-time, jobs to save money for art tools, and for Noah's college applications, he was given a car for his 16th birthday that he, in 3 months when I crashed, finished. As a validator and got a part scholarship to go to design school, the family party lasted 1 night. When Noah said he was going to take a break year that turned into 5 years, my parents, I learned that he called it finding himself. Early on, that showing my worth meant putting in twice as much work for half the getting noticed after college. I began at work as a junior designer for Embergate Travel, staying up late every night to get better at plans and build client relationships. In the last 3 years, I'd been given the title of senior designer, and by year 5, I was in charge of the artistic team for our high-end travel section. Had always been there for me when I did well. Mixed feelings of pride and anger from my family. My mom, Patricia, would brag to her friends about what I've done, but with the caveat that, of course, we don't see her very often because she's so busy with work. My dad, Harold, was more direct than ever before, in his not agreeing with all that education and for what you do all the time, and don't have a husband or kids, what's that? But Noah was still their child. Even though he was 31 years old, he was in a tough job market, and his failure to keep ties going was because he was too sensitive for this world. An ongoing need for cash Help was just always only temporarily. I had planned this European trip, taking a trip to show them how much their help meant to me. Even so, all the things I wanted to give them trips they never thought possible. Having the White House suite at the Langham in London, a family-owned Seine River cruise in Paris with VIP access to the Vatican in Rome, every little thing had been carefully picked to make memories that would last it had taken 6 months to plan everything. I used my contacts in the business world to book plans that money alone can't not able to buy. The person I talked to at Langham had pulled strings to get us the same set where royal British families stayed at the restaurant in Paris that I had, reserved for our last night. There was a 2-year wait list, but the chef remembered me from the tour business event and made an exception for every ticket gets a confirmation email number of each special request that was sent in linked to my ID and in my name more details. This is what high-end hotels do. Was more than just a procedure. It was necessary protection rules these places follow, served well-known clients who most important to them were privacy and secrecy. Something else, as I looked through my carefully categorized my files, I realized those last-minute changes my parents made not only upsetting but also difficult to arrange. Not possible. They plan to arrive in London and stay in places where the staff don't have any records of Harold or Noah Cortez. They would show up for private trips. Those were booked just for Vanessa Cortez and known guests on the trip. The people they thought they were taking only in their eye imagined that the real trip was mine. And just me, the next morning after I sat in my office while my dad called. At the Embergate Travel, looking at my coffee and a computer screen, my hands are getting cold. Brooke is my co-worker and best friend. Mitchell tapped on the frame of my office door. "It looks like someone stole my favorite design program," she said, putting down the chair next to my desk. "What's going on?" I told them the situation while looking at Brooke's face change from being confused to being angry. She'd met my family at Christmas parties at work through the years and had seeing for myself how they treated me compared to Noah. "Wait. Let me understand this." Brooke leaned forward and said, "You planned and paid for a whole high-class European trip for your parents, and they chosen to take your unpaid brother." "That pretty much sums it up," I said. Answered that I was surprised by how far away I felt. "And everything is booked. Everything, hotels, tours, and bookings for restaurants, even I set up a private driving service for ground." Getting around Brooke was quiet for a moment, and then a slow smile spread across her. "You know what this means, right? Things will go badly for my family. Vanessa, this is the perfect break for you have full control over this." In this case, she took out her phone and beginning. "You should type what you want to do. That trip for yourself. You deserve it more." No one had thought of that idea more than they did. But as soon as she said it, I had a surge of thrills. Why shouldn't I enjoy the trip I had planned and paid for, done nothing but work for months? And I already had time off, okay? I can't just leave them in Europe, I said. But as I spoke, I knew I was telling myself lies, more than she told Brooke. "They left you first. Said they had already made their choice. I'll let you make yours that afternoon." First, I made a number of calls. Called each hotel to make sure that my proof of identity would be needed to let them know that there had been not sure what to do about the party list, that there was a great receptionist at the Langham. It's good that their system only I was given permission to make changes to the no reservation. After that, I called the tour companies to make sure that their private guides would only see me as the client, to get in touch with the Vatican tour. Planner was very strict about this explanation, those conditions for their exclusive access, checks of information that were linked to exact passport numbers finally. I bought a plane ticket to Iceland, somewhere I'd always wanted to go but never had time for. At a shop I found a beautiful suite. A hotel in Reykjavik that has a view of the northern lights would be mine. A secret party, away from the trouble my family was about to meet as I finished making my Iceland plans. I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Full peace with the choices I made for. I put myself first once, and it felt completely freeing. After 3 days, my dad and Noah leaving for London in first class, I watched their flights I had booked. From my room, I post on social media, seeing my mom's happy selfies at the airport and pictures of my dad being proud of Noah sitting in his first-class seat. "That should have been mine, living the best life we could," my mother had wrote under a picture of the three of them at the airport lounge, so thankful for this great opportunity. It wasn't said who made that chance I could get. Of course, I was ready to take off for Iceland the next morning, giving me the whole day to make some last changes to their European adventure. I called all morning all the places on their schedule. It would be too clear not to stop that. But to be clear, they are very strict name recognition policies. Just to be sure, I told the manager at Bristol in Paris, if someone shows up and says they are checking in for the spot for Cortez, but doesn't have, if you match your ID, you won't be able to work with them, right? "Certainly not, Miss Cortez," he said. Clearly, given the amount of security we keep up for our VIP guests, we can't make any allowances, but only for this person who has the same name and passport as us reservation will be able to get in. I called the hotel in the same way, in people who take individual tours in Rome, and even the places with Michelin stars. Each conversation proved what I already knew what my family was about to find out, that high-end travel works on a whole different level than their normal for planning vacations in the evening. I had a strange mix of excitement, and a sad part of me hoped they would find a way to fix it and call me to say sorry and ask me to join them. However, my phone stayed quiet except for their regular posts on social media from their overnight the next morning. I got on my own trip. Flight to Reykjavik with a lightness I hadn't felt in months. As the plane took off, I took off from Charlotte and turned off my phone and gave myself time to take a break for the first time since the whole thing, the same time my family was. Arriving at Heathrow Airport has no idea about what they were in for. I found out what happened from a series of more and more frantic messages they left on my phone, which I checked when I was sure I was safe sitting in my hotel room in Iceland. My mom sent the first message, filmed in London at 3 p.m. "Honey, there's been some they say there was a mix-up at the hotel. Don't even have a ticket for us, even though we have the email confirmation you sent. Could you call them and take care of this? Check it out." After an hour, the second message was from my father, Vanessa. "This is silly. Now I've been to 3 places, and all of them, they say they only have of course there's a ticket for you. There's been a tech glitch, and we need you to fix this." By 6 p.m., Noah had already left his own message, and it was the first time in years he hadn't talked to me with his usual tone of condescending Vanessa. "I know we haven't always been together. Been getting along, but now we're stuck. Could you help us figure out something is wrong with these bookings we're making. We're tired, angry, and to be honest, I do not know what to did." The texts keep going all through. It was their first day in London, and they tried going to the Langham with printed confirmations, but the concierge was very nice and told them that I didn't have my passport and they couldn't get to their physical existence. The ticket, the same thing took place. At every other place they looked at on their second day. The tone of the words had changed from ones of confusion to they were scared and spent the night in a cheap hotel close to the airport that cost they had ever spent on place to stay before their wedding. The European trip was becoming in cost. "A lot, Vanessa, in our nightmares. We don't get it. What's going on?" My mom's voice was message 12 made me cry, and we just please call us back. "Yours, parents," but I was having the most fun, the most peaceful trip of my adult life. Seeing the northern lights move across the sky of Iceland from my private, finally getting what a hot tub is. By day 3, I was going to put myself first. Of their trip to Europe, my family's the posts on social media had taken on a tone was very different. Gone were the selfies with happy faces and thankful captions. Instead, there were angry posts about how bad tour companies are and time-off disasters. I was looking at the beautiful Gullfoss waterfall when I finally went to see it. 27 missed calls. were on my phone. 41 text messages about the development of their messages said that there were more needy day 1 in London Small, a problem with our hotel booking, but we're making sense of day 2 in Paris having trouble with our rooms. Once more, it looks like there's a problem with the booking 3 days in a row. Also in Paris, this trip has been a total disaster. Everything is working the way it should. Noah sent the most important word. Vanessa, I know it's 2 a.m. in Paris. Mom, we know you're mad at us, but this isn't fair. And Dad spent all of their vacation money. We took planes to get here, and now we're having to stay and host because nothing anyone else is free. Please let us know how to get to the places you booked. I sat on a bench with a view of the reading message after message like a waterfall and felt something I didn't expect, a tiny bit of guilt. But then I thought of my dad's rude tone when he called to take me off of my own vacation. You're more guilty of this than he is. Quickly went away. The truth was they had different ways they could have called me on day. Someone said sorry and asked for help. They might have been ready to work, that something was out, but they thought they could just take over my carefully. Written planned a trip without asking me first, and the first thing they did when things went wrong, my first thought was to demand that I fix their mess instead of admitting mistake. Their words showed how little they knew about the trip I had planned. They had tried to book hotel rooms by showing getting confirmation emails on their phones, not seeing that high-end businesses needed the original cardholder to be present, that they had shown up for tours, that they will be greeted with open arms, instead of understanding that the services were booked especially for individuals who come to the place. There may have been the most giving an example of their they thought they had arrived at LJ's Vin was in the Eiffel Tower. Your mother hasn't stopped cracking. Noah has been crying since yesterday about leaving early and losing. We know how much the return trips cost. That was the wrong word we used. It had been 7 days since I heard, but when they got there, they felt hollow. What went wrong? Dad, we should have talked to you first. Before you make that's not the mistake you should make. Kept quiet. The mistake you made was I thought that my life, work, the tools I used were planning and money. That you could give to Noah again whenever you thought he needed them more than I did. What you did wrong was telling me he deserved this more than I did. As if I hadn't earned I could hear every dollar I spent on this trip. I can hear my mom crying in the background now. Dad, do you want to know the saddest part? If you had called me and told me that, if you asked me, Noah was having a hard time. To help him plan a different trip, I most likely would have done it. I love our family, even when you make it hard for them, but you tried to take something else. That was mine and give it to him. You could treat me like a bank account get to whenever it's okay. We didn't really mean that. Yes, you did. And you've always meant it. That way, every time Noah failed at something, and you let him off the hook. While they thought I should just work harder and ask for less, that's what you meant. So I hung up the phone and blocked them. I was done being there, I was given a disaster fund and a backup plan. Done being the one who fixed things, I made mistakes while everyone else did. For the first time, wants were turned down. I stayed with myself as an adult, 6. After months, my folks and Noah brought back to Charlotte having spent the rest of their trip through Europe in cheap places to stay and eat at fast food, places they'd been able to see some places and take pictures. But their fancy trip turned into it costs a lot to learn about assumptions, and having too much power, my mom tried to reach out. By family members sending words about how badly they missed me and wished to get back together. But the message was mostly about what they wanted. Making peace instead of being told what they did was right. They were wrong and wanted forgiveness without bringing back responsibility, without change. During that time, I had used the peace and clarity on my trip to Iceland to make some big life. I started working as a freelancer on the side, building a group of high-end clients' vacation companies that figured out what I knew and contacts in the business world. Within 4 months, freelance work was making me more money Then from my full-time job, I was offered a job by Embergate Travel A. I turned down the raise to creative director. I wrote it down and turned in my resignation. Instead, my freelance business is called Wanderlust Design. Studios was all set to go with 3 already have big clients, Brooke, who had become my business, signed. A partner in the new business is often asked if I felt bad about how things turned out with my family. No was always the answer. I learned something on my trip to Iceland. Putting myself first was very helpful. Wasn't selfish. It was important. I had tried for 33 years to get love. Thanks from people who would never value me the way I am earned while I was building a life, having guests and coworkers around who liked my skills and respected knew the limits and knew that relationships should be based on trust. Care instead of one-sided sacrifice. They were still living in Charlotte. Noah was still living in the basement. They had not learned anything from there. But I was more of a European disaster, strong enough to stand up for myself than they'd ever. I thought. I was thankful in a strange way for that. Find out that sometimes you have to lose everything you thought you wanted to understand what you really needed. As I thought about my path since then, a painful phone call led me to build my own successful business. I knew that leaving wasn't the best way to get back at them. It had been them stuck in Europe being proud of myself enough to walk away from people who wouldn't let me see my worth.